tuning into Business Talks with the Rebel Entrepreneur. Let's cut the BS for a sec. No matter how successful you think you are, there's always more to learn about being in business. This podcast is about pushing through adversity, challenging the status quo, and learning what you don't know from kick-ass entrepreneurs who've been there, done that. Let's do this.
Today, I'm going to be talking about something that affects a lot of entrepreneurs. How to keep it all together when you're going through a whole bunch of struggle, either in your business or in your personal life. When I'm talking to business owners from a coaching perspective, I'm very well aware of the fact that everything that goes on in your life, especially if you're a small business owner or a solopreneur even, everything that goes on in your personal life, your happiness, your sadness, your stress, it all infiltrates over to your business sooner or later. It's very difficult to stay focused on the success and productivity of your company when the rest of your life seems to be going to shit. I'm going to give you an example in my own personal life of a challenge that I went through that really hits this topic home. Many years ago, we're talking about, 7, 8 years ago now, my husband and I were ready to continue our family, to have a child of our own. And while I thought, okay, well, this is great. We're going to do this. I've got my businesses. Let's go. Easier said than done. Doing that one thing that comes so natural to so many other women, it did not come naturally to me. And let's just say that it was about 3 years of just constant disappointment every single month when I realized that I wasn't pregnant. I had to go through one of my most scary, challenging times in my life while also balancing 3 separate businesses. And that was IVF. For those of you listening who have ever been through IVF or somebody who has, then you know firsthand how challenging that in itself is. Not even taking into consideration all of the other emotions or fears that go along with that. And I can tell you, for me, just pregnancy in itself was one of my biggest fears. It's something that I wanted so badly to have a child of my own. But I was really afraid my whole entire life of going through that whole entire process because I'm a very squeamish person, very squeamish. Like, to even get my blood taken, I have this whole entire way of coping with that situation. It involves me having a bottle of water in between my legs, drinking it with a straw while listening to my favorite tunes. That is literally how I have to overcome that because I am such a wuss when it comes to anything invasive or anything medical like that. So while I was going through IVF, and then, just to let you know how this story turned out, I do have a son who at the time of this recording is 5 years old, and he is the love of my life, just such a blessing. So this story does have a happy ending. But while I was going through that, I still had to keep my businesses running. And at that time, so we're going back about a little bit more than 6 years ago now. At that time, I had a lot of shit going on. I had a lot of things I was dealing with. I had a lot of thoughts running through my head. I had a lot of challenges before me in my personal life. Now, my IVF story is just one scenario that has come up for me personally, but I know that you all listening can relate to this topic because things happen in life, right? Relationships end, financial burdens arise, economic downturns happen. There's a whole bunch of other things, external things that are happening in our lives at any given time that have the ability to negatively impact our business, just even by taking our focus off of it because we are so invested in whatever it is that we are doing otherwise, dealing with otherwise. So as I was going through this process in my life, and then I ultimately became pregnant. So now I was pregnant and trying to run these several businesses. It was tough. It was so tough. But in that moment, I had a decision to make. I could either tough it out, put on my big girl panties and say, okay, let's do this. Or I could have let my situation that I was dealing with in my personal life completely derail all of the hard work that I had done up until that point with my several businesses that I had on the go. Everyone dealing with these less than great circumstances has that same choice. Is it really worth sacrificing all of the hard work, everything you've been through to bring your businesses up until this point in time because you're dealing with something else going on in the background? My short answer is no, it's not. But I can understand why sometimes entrepreneurs are in these challenging times, because here's the thing. If you're working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, then you get to basically leave everything behind when you go home at 5 p.m. You don't really need to be thinking about your job at 9 p.m. when you're laying in bed. You don't really need to think about, oh, how am I going to keep all of this together? Everything that I need to do tomorrow. I mean, you could, if you're a workaholic with a strong work ethic, maybe that's what you do one day, Friday, 9 to 5. Maybe you do carry your work home with you, but that is an option. That is an option. As an entrepreneur, our businesses are always running through our minds. And if the smaller the company that you have, the more dependent it will be on you to keep it together. If you have a larger company, then you have managers in place, you have staff in place, and they can essentially take care of the day-to-day things that come up while you're dealing with your challenges. But if you have a smaller company and maybe you only have 1 or 2 staff, or it's just you are a one-woman or one-man show, then the stakes are even higher to ensure that you are really focusing on your business and compartmentalizing your life, so that way you can ensure that whatever you're dealing with in the background is not negatively impacting your business. So fast forward my story. I went through IVF. I was pregnant and I ultimately had my son. And a week after he was born, he almost died. That was the number one scariest moment of my entire life. My 1-week-old baby was hooked up to all of these machines. They were trying to put an IV in him, but he was so small. And they were putting an IV in his head, and his veins just kept collapsing. And at one point, he went code blue on the table. And I was thinking to myself in that moment, oh my God, everything that I've worked towards to make him a reality. It took a lot of hard work, okay? It took so much hard work. When you go through IVF and you run multiple businesses, it's not as easy as just, the natural way of having a child, which is more fun and games than anything. That was definitely not my experience. Anyways, The single most scary moment of my life was when I heard that doctor say code blue, code blue. And I can't even tell you all of the fears, all of the panic, all of the chaos that was going on in my brain. Now, one of my realtors who's still with me today, I don't remember this, but she tells me that I called her in that moment and I said, I need your help. This is what's going on. I've got this client, I've got this client, I've got this client. Can you please take care of them or, help me out here because this is what I'm dealing with. Now, I do not remember that happening. I don't know if it's because of, I've blocked out a lot of what happened that day or if it's just my really crappy memory, which I'm not going to lie to you, that is a probability. But I had no choice as a business owner to ensure that while I was dealing with this situation in my life, everything in my business was handled too. So if you're a business owner, that is your livelihood, right? You don't have another way of making money. Your business is how you make money. Your business is how you support your family. Your business is how you pay your bills. Now, for me, I have multiple streams of income, which I highly, highly recommend any business owner to do. If there's a way that you can set yourself up for passive income, even better. I have a couple of those streams as well. But there were things in my life that it was only me in that moment to take care of. Nobody else was going to send my newspaper off to print. Nobody else was going to look over my brokerage. Nobody else was there to deal with the services that were coming in from my legal company. I had to pick and choose in that moment, of course, what I was going to do because I was now being airlifted to Edmonton with my son who was in this big incubator-like machine where I would stay for the next 4 days until they figured out what the situation was. Now, again, happy ending to the story. My son is healthy. He's alive. He is the pride of my life. But that was a scary time. Situations like this come up. And the best way to handle it, in my opinion, is to set yourself up ahead of time, be proactive for these one-off situations in your life. So that way, when shit hits the fan, your business doesn't go down with it. I was recently coaching a client of mine who was going through a breakup. And breakups are another really life-changing thing that can occur. Your whole world is turned upside down. And she was really struggling. She was really having a tough time, as anybody would. You've invested years of your life in a relationship, and then all of a sudden it's over just like that. I had to ask her, is the 30 years that you have invested in your career choice up to this point in time, worth throwing away over the situation that you're dealing with? That was a question that only she could answer. But it's a question that I want to ask all of you as well. Whatever you're dealing with in your personal life, is it worth sabotaging all of the hard work that you've done to get up until this point? Now, nothing what I'm saying here today is easy. Nobody said entrepreneurship was easy. Nobody said owning a business was going to be a breeze. These are decisions that we have to make as we go along because, there's a lot at risk. There's a lot at risk if we let other things that are going on negatively impact our company. So here's what I suggest. Be proactive, set yourself up with either people or systems or a mechanism of ensuring that your business still stays afloat if you cannot be there. That's number one. Okay. Be proactive. You know, when the fire happened in Fort McMurray in 2016, for those of you listening who aren't aware of that, 88,000 of us were evacuated on May 3rd, 2016. It was the largest natural disaster in Canadian history. But we all knew that a fire was imminent. For 3 days, we saw the smoke. We felt the heat of the fire, and we all just felt like, this will never happen to us. And then one day we are all of a sudden getting evacuated. Everybody from the entire community being evacuated because houses and buildings were burning down. A good portion of our community was on fire. Even though we knew for several days that it was a possibility that this could happen, nobody had their stuff packed. Nobody was like, okay, here's my preparedness kit. If I need to leave my house, I've got everything ready to go. I didn't have any of that done. You know what? The day that fire happened, I was catching up on all of my accounting stuff and packing everything into my vehicle to bring down to my accountant. And then I really felt the heat right from my driveway. I could feel it on my face because the fire across from my house the forest across from my house was on fire. Thankfully, I had all of my business stuff with me just by chance, but I wasn't ready for that. And nobody was ready for that because as a society, we are very much reactive. We don't really think ahead. We think we're naive and we think this will never happen to me. This will never happen. I'll never be in a situation where I have to pick and choose family over my business or vice versa. I'll never be in a situation where I'll have to really get my head sorted out because I have to keep my business afloat when the rest of my life is falling apart. We just don't think like that, right? We think it'll never happen to us. So, number one, be proactive. Trust me, this is good advice to be proactive. Number two, really compartmentalize your life, okay? If everything is falling apart around you or you're dealing with some situations that are less than favorable, that are really taking a lot of your mental space away from your business, then you need to compartmentalize your life. So that way there's a time where you're focusing on your business and blocking out the other things going on. And then there's a time where you're blocking out your business and you're focusing on the other things going on. This is really hard. And it will pay off in spades if you're able to do it. Everything you have worked towards is not worth giving up because of something else going on in your life. And this is going to be one of the hardest challenges you'll ever have as a business owner, is to keep everything together when everything else seems to be falling apart. It's one of the biggest challenges you'll ever face, but it's not impossible. You can do it. And if you set yourself up for success in advance, like I suggested, being proactive and making sure you have people and systems and a backup plan in place for when shit hits the fan, then you'll be in a way better position where you can now take away the time to go and deal with whatever it is that you need to deal with. Got some things going on in my life right now. Not that I'm going to share them on here because they're pretty private at this point in time. But I wanted to talk about this because I'm in that situation right now. I can't allow myself to fall apart because I've worked too hard to get to where I am. They say tough times never last, but tough people do. I do truly believe that. I really do. It's times like these that just made me think of the Foo Fighters song. It's times like these you learn to live. Okay, I will not. I probably just lost half of the audience just trying to sing there. No, it's times like these where you need to reach into every piece of your being and take out that inner reserve of strength to make it through. This too shall pass. Take the time that you need to deal with your situation. Compartmentalize your day so that you can focus on what you need to do to keep everything afloat while you're dealing with your situation. And one day you're going to look back and you're going to say, wow, that was a really great story of perseverance and willpower and tenacity that I can use to inspire other people who are going through challenging moments, that they too can overcome what's ahead of them. You've got this. You've worked so hard to get to this point. And you know what? If you need extra support, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, right? If you need to go to therapy to deal with whatever situation that you've got in front of you, then go to therapy. If you need to hire somebody to handle some of the workload while you deal with your situation, then do that. But whatever you do, don't sabotage everything for this tough time that you're going through. You've got this. I believe in you. And I know that you can get through it.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to Business Talks with the Rebel Entrepreneur with your host, Diana Noble. If you like this episode and want more business tips from the Rebel herself, give @Noble Choice Coaching a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Have a topic you want covered on a future episode? Reach out and let's do it. Now, go kick some ass.